Hello, I am Marissa, Eat This Not That social media director, and we are about to go live with a member of our medical expert board, Denis Faye. Denis is a nutrition consultant, journalist, and athlete committed to changing people's lives for the better. During his 20 years at the Beachbody Company, he guided the creation of dozens of nutrition programs that have helped millions get results. And as a writer, he's been featured in dozens of publications, including the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, Outside, Men's Health, and Men's Journal. And today he is going to be joining us for a Q&A with the topic of sugar. So Denis will be answering all kinds of diet and nutrition questions that you, our followers, submitted for us all about sugar. Hello!
Hey, Marissa.
Guys.
How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Not bad at all. Sitting here in beautiful Missouri, spending time with my mom. It's important.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Sunny and beautiful out, so that's great. At least.
Yeah.
What's blasting into your living room there?
Oh, is that okay? Is the lighting weird? Or all right.
Natural light. Fantastic. Well, for those tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. We're here with Denis Faye, and we are about to jump into a Q&A all about the topic of sugar when it comes to nutrition and your diet. So anything you'd like to say to set the stage before we jump right out the questions ready for us?
Yeah. I'll do my best to answer. I want to preface by saying that sugar can be as confusing as you want it to be. The guidelines, I'll try to offer some advice. It's very, very simple because that's all it needs to be. But at the same time, you're going to realize that there's a lot of complexity and a lot of stuff we don't know, which is kind of fun to learn about. But ultimately, the $10,000 advice is to kind of try to reduce the amount of added or free sugars that you take.
Okay, perfect. Well, we definitely have some questions that I think can get to the nitty gritty of what people are wondering when it comes to being told you need your sugars. So the first that someone wrote in is, I know the USDA daily recommendation for consuming added sugars, but does that apply to the natural sugars in fruits and vegetables?
No, it does not. You see a couple government recommendations. You see the 40 grams, which, 10 teaspoons, they say, which is about 40 grams, which is about 160 calories. You also see sometimes them say 10% of your calories, which if you had a 2,000 calorie diet, which is a pretty average diet, that would be about 50 grams of sugar or 200 calories. And that's for added sugar. Now let's take a step back and explain what sugar is. All right. I think that's what's going to help most. Sugar, you have three nutrients you eat. Everything you eat is protein, fat, or carbohydrates. Okay. Sugar is a carbohydrate. Now, carbohydrates they can be complex or simple, which is to say the easiest way of thinking about it is they can be really hard to digest, which is the most complex of all carbohydrates is fiber. So complex you can't even digest it. And then you go to sugar, which is simple, like little molecules. There's like less of them, and that's the stuff that you process really fast. And that's not good to. I mean, it's your fuel. It's important, but if you have it too fast, it's not just about weight gain or whatever. It's also it goes into your system too fast, and it can affect your blood sugar. It can lead to all kinds of complications, cardiovascular complications, metabolic complications, and all that. So you don't want to get carried away with the super fast sugars. Now, when you eat sugars from nature or just existing the way they are from fruits and vegetables, there are some safeguards that have been added. The fiber is a big one, which slows down the absorption of those fast sugars, so they're not so fast anymore. And then and also like water, and also you're getting a whole bunch of nutrients. So even if you have a fruit or vegetable that arguably is kind of faster absorbing like a fruit, you're getting a bunch of water and nutrients. So unless you have a specific metabolic issue, where your doctor recommends against those fruits, you're fine. And with that in mind, so I think we've gotten all the way through there. Is that clear?
Yes, very clear. Very helpful.
Awesome. Now, to address your question, added sugars are generally problematic. They are the those simple molecules, that easy to digest stuff, has been added to foods, and oftentimes without the thought of being healthy. They're all about sugar tastes good, and it gives you a dopamine rush. We'll get to that in a second, but and it's just a good way for manufacturers or people making foods to make the food taste better. So they put a lot in. There's a whole other political side to it. If you want to study that, we can talk about that. But let's just focus on it. Makes it taste good. Kind of a preservative. It's kind of nice, but it's not doing you any favors. And everything got a little carried away with all that added sugar. So the government has put these guidelines in to help people. So there's that. The tricky part about that, right, is that it's not just the white powder, these added sugars. Honey is an added sugar because there's nothing. It's like I said, it just goes in fast. There's no fiber. There's nothing backing it up. Molasses, maple syrup. They've given it all these other names. I'm sure that Eat This Not That has tons of articles listing the 5 billion names that added sugar has been given. And then there's a gray area when you get to like fruit juices, right? Technically, the government doesn't count 100% fruit juice as added sugar. Now, a lot of opinions, including mine, are that it's still problematic. Yes, you're getting the vitamin C, you're getting the vitamin whatever from fruit juice, but it's not regulated by any fiber or anything. So you're just better off. You're just better off eating fruit, and also that helps you with calories. Right? Still consider calories here. When you eat free sugar or drink free sugar, it's really easy to consume too much. It's really like 100 calories of apple juice is just this little bitty thing, and no one drinks that. Everyone will drink like 300, 400, 500 calories. Whereas you eat an apple, that's 100 calories, and not a lot of people eat 4 or 5 apples. So it's a better way of getting those nutrients. So that was a big, long answer.
No, that was fantastic.
Okay.
We have a similar question up next. Do fruits and vegetables count as sugar consumption if I'm trying to eat clean?
Bam. So no, like they some people do think that. You'll have schools of thoughts like I mean the keto people and as general, and there are some concerns over the sugar and fruit in some camps. By government standards and by most standards, no, they're just fine. I mean, I always point to the fact that I deal with people and have dealt with people both with overweight, with obesity, and with metabolic issues. I never met one that got that from eating too many bananas.
Yes.
Ever.
Fair. Okay. And then again, someone asked, how do natural sugars affect the body differently than processed sugars?
Okay, they don't. Sugar is sugar is sugar. It's what comes with the sugar that matters. So if you have, and you know, there are such things as processed foods that have added sugars that are also quite nutritious, where there's also fiber in there and there's a lot of other nutrients. So they don't mess you up. The glycemic index, the rate they're absorbed is good. Oftentimes they'll have a little label on there that says that. They're pretty proud of that when that happens. So look out for that. So you can be okay, but generally speaking, you're like honey has vaguely a little bit of nutrition in there, but pretty much in terms of metabolic health, honey is gonna kind of smack you just as bad as other sugar is. Now there's a caveat to that. Okay. You've probably heard of fructose, right?
Of course.
Yes. So way down in amongst the simple sugars, there's this one called fructose, and there is a definite school of thought that this is an especially problematic type of sugar. In my opinion, the jury's still out on how much worse it is. There's a really cool book called Nature Wants Us to Be Fat by Dr. Richard Johnson, and he's a firm believer in that. And his theory is that fructose is the sugar that animals like bears and stuff use to gain a bunch of weight to hibernate, and humans still have that capacity, which is so they eat a bunch of fructose, they gain weight inexplicably because they still have that little hibernating genetics floating around in there. Fascinating book. Take it with a grain of salt or a grain of sugar, as it were. But you know, that's what's go far. In my opinion, for the purposes of good health, sugar is sugar is sugar. It's
Okay.
fine. It does an important job. Just keep it minimally balanced. And if your diet is balanced and you keep the processed foods down and the whole foods up, and you make sure to get plenty of protein and good fats and whole grains, you're just not going to eat that much sugar, whether it's fructose, sucrose, galactose, whatever, and you're going to be fine.
Okay, fantastic. Next, you somewhat answered this just now, but someone asked specifically, how much sugar is too much sugar to maintain a healthy diet?
Yeah. So it's kind of up to you. It's interesting. You know, you talked about the athlete thing, and that definitely plays a big role in my life. And when you're an endurance athlete, um, when you're training like a low level training day is still 1,000, 1,500 calories, you need fast energy. So you're going to eat way more sugar healthfully than someone who doesn't exercise like that. So it really depends on who you are. Um, I would say, I mean, there's an intuitive aspect to it, but again, if you stick mostly as best you can to whole foods and getting your sugar from fruits and vegetables, um, you're probably gonna be in good shape. There's always an example of someone who might have, you know, be with diabetes and need to regulate sugar, have a different relationship with sugar. So if you're one of those people, this is a doctor or your registered dietitian question. It's not a guy on the internet question.
Okay, fantastic. Next, how can I break my addiction to sugar?
So it's really kind of a fascinating topic. I know everyone goes into the dopamine thing, um, and, and yes, sugar stimulates dopamine in your brain. Pretty much everything that makes you feel good stimulates dopamine. For me, Bill Murray movies stimulate dopamine in my brain. I'm not addicted to them, but, but and also there's, I mean, it's an interesting to read about, but there is, we'll say, we'll call it addiction for lack of a better term. There is like a you need the sugar thing. Personally, I think a lot of that is psychologically motivated. um, I would say I had that kind of a psychological thing as a kid. Like, sweet foods were something that were a comfort food, and when I'm having a really bad time, yeah, I'm gonna eat a Snickers bar. That's just all there is to it. But it's rare. It's like once or twice a year, and it's one bar, and I think that's okay. Um, so, but so one, so ways to keep that in check are to be aware of what you're eating. A lot of people don't understand that there's sugar everywhere, that there's sugar in salad dressing, that there's sugar in ketchup, that there's sugar in cereal, that there's, be aware that you're eating the sugar. I take breaks. You know how there is dry January. It's a big thing. Um, I actually do sugar-free January. I just stop. Um, I mean, there's a few, given the way I train, I'll end up having sugar when I'm running or cycling. I just can't function at a level I want to without it. But besides that, no cake, no cookies, no juice, no pie, no nothing. And it's rough. I go without caffeine for a while. I go without alcohol for a while. I do all those things. Sugar is the hardest one, but once you get past that, like a week or two, you feel really good. And then when you go back to sugar, you find that less is more. It's that you get that sweet satisfaction from a little bit less. So I would recommend that everyone do that at least once a year. And if you're really noticing that you're just eating tons of sugar and craving it, just, yeah, take a break. Cold turkey.
That's a fantastic tip. Okay, next we have, what can I replace sugar with apart from honey?
Okay. So I talked about the honey before. I, so my philosophy isn't the normal one. Um, I, Artificial sweeteners are really wild west. We don't know how they work and what they do. Even like people are starting to have little questions about stevia, which is, I mean, yeah, okay, it comes from leaves. And frankly, I have grown stevia in my garden and put it in my tea and find all that. But the stuff you're eating it's not, it's processed all to hell. It's not natural anymore. Come on, you know? Um, I said H, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend anybody. All right, thank you. Um, but so and also there's the thing about eating a bunch of artificial sweeteners is, there's research showing that it doesn't really trick your brain, that you have the sweet thing and then your brain goes, excellent, I got energy, and then the energy doesn't show up and your brain goes, hey, and then it makes you crave it even more. It's not a very effective way to go. Um, and so I personally just use sugar because I know what it is. I know what it does. I just minimize it, and that works pretty well for me. There's a lot of things. It took me years. Like I drink my coffee black. I don't add it to stuff, and I just found that less and less and less and less. And I got to the point where I do eat sugar, but I eat a manageable, safe amount. So, but then other people disagree, and they think they want a substitute in there. And I would just encourage you to pick the one that you do and do a lot of research and decide that if you think the risks are worth the reward.
Sure. Okay, so you just answered this next question, but just to reiterate, what is the best sugar option to sweeten iced tea? Would you say sugar itself?
Yeah, I just want to mention that someone said they loved me. I hope they're talking to me. They're probably talking to you, actually, Marissa. So, Kumar,
I would start talking to you.
ah,
Very sweet.
well, whoever they're talking to, we appreciate it and we love you too. Again, I drink iced tea straight. It took me an excruciatingly long time to get used to it that way. Um, I would say, you know what? So you got like the sweet tea, like the country western version of sweet tea. That stuff has an absurd amount of sugar, like more than soda sometimes. I would encourage you to find out what your sugar threshold is. I would encourage you to drink your sweet tea and just with like see how much you can get away with. Like you odds are you put a couple teaspoons in or a teaspoon and it's fine. you know and or even if like it's 6 teaspoons and then do that for a while and then try 3, 2, 1 and try to get it down. I don't think we need to live this deprived tragic life of no sugar, but just find the minimum amount that still you can still enjoy what you enjoy. That's what I would recommend.
Perfect. And the last question we received, someone wants to know, what is sugar alcohol?
Okay, so it's not sugar and it's not alcohol.
Okay.
Um, it's sort of sugar in that it's oftentimes made from sugar. Some of them have um, uh, um, they come naturally in food, in fruits and stuff. Some of them they're just made synthetically nowadays. Most of them are made synthetically, generally on the back of a package or whatever. If you see "all" at the end, sorbitol, erythritol, mannitol, xylitol, that means the sugar alcohol. So it's basically got about half the calories of sugar. It doesn't affect you with that metabolism thing quite as bad. The other side of sugar alcohols is that they can make you really gassy. Um, I think it depends on the individual. I straight up, you don't want to be with me after I've had sugar alcohol in an elevator. Let's just leave it at that, okay? So uh, yeah, that's what it is. Again, some people push that as a really healthy option. Anything that makes you that gassy, I just got to question a little bit. So, you can have your own opinion. And in my opinion, again, devil you know versus devil you don't know. By the way, someone asked about white wine and sugar. Can I talk about that? Am I allowed?
Please. Yes. She asked
Yeah.
a lot of sugar in white wine.
Yes. So yeah, there's that. Well, uh, so what happens with alcohol is alcohols have sugar. The thing that it started with, grapes, barley, whatever, had a bunch of sugar in it, and then there's a fermentation where that sugar is kind of eaten and it becomes alcohol. But some sticks around. Wine, and pretty much like you taste it, the sweeter it is, there's residual sugar left in there, right? But it's so the answer is yes, it has sugar. However, and the sweeter it is, the more sugar it has. However, alcohol kind of functions a little bit like a sugar. It kind of functions halfway between a sugar and a fat, but it's just not doing you any favors, and it's impacting you negatively as well. So um, I would just be mindful. I'd be more mindful of the alcohol and alcohol than the sugar and alcohol, and that includes white wine.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It was a wealth of information like it always is. We love having you on here. So
Well,
much.
thank you. It's fun being here. You guys are awesome.
It's so much fun having you. I really hope that you'll come back and do this again with us very soon. To everyone who tuned in, thank you. And please, before we sign off, tell where they can find you across the internet so they can continue to get.
Yeah, the best way, I write a weekly newsletter on Substack, new personal best, but you can just probably have better luck searching my name. It's Denis, spelled Denis, like Dennis with one N, last name Faye, F as in Frank, Aye. If you want to go to my Substack and subscribe, it's free. And you know what? I really love when people go there and ask questions, and I will answer your questions because I just really like answering questions.
Fantastic. Well, again, I hope you'll come back and answer some more questions. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. And it was a wonderful time.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great. Thank you very much.
Take care.